Hello, and welcome to the 19th edition of Talking Solutions, the podcast of the Association for Solution-Focused Hypnotherapy. I'm Sally Hare, and today we'll be talking to Mel Cook about her experience of living with attention deficit hyperactivity disorder, or ADHD. Mel is a solution-focused hypnotherapist, lecturer and supervisor. Based in Bath, she was one of the first qualified solution-focused hypnotherapists in the country. Diagnosed with ADHD later in life, this has given Mel the opportunity to reflect on ways the condition has influenced both her personal and professional journey. And she can recognise the coping strategies and strengths she's developed to be able to support herself through life's challenges. She says she holds a lot more compassion for and understanding of the younger Mel as a result. She shares her insights to offer hope and practical strategies for those with ADHD, drawing from her own experiences and professional practice. So welcome, Mel. It's lovely to have you on the podcast.
Hello, thank you. Yeah, nice to be here.
So you say you were diagnosed later in life. Can you talk a little bit about what caused you to seek diagnosis and the difference this label's made for you?
Yeah, so I knew there was something, but I didn't quite know what it was. And then the more clients that I saw that came who were diagnosed or their kids were getting diagnosed, and then I just thought that, yeah, the more I understood about it,
Mm.
the more I thought. So I listened to a book, an Audible called ADD Way to Organize Your Life. And I cried nearly all the way through it. I was doing my cleaning at home and I was just like the recognition of like things that I hadn't even realized. And there was everything was to a T. Yeah, so since then I looked more into it. And then I was on reading an article actually online about the crossover between CPTSD and ADHD, and that sometimes there's a misdiagnosis. And I really liked the article, so I clicked back to where it had come from, and it was an ADHD coach. And so I had and he had a free 20-minute call. So I had a call with him, and he told me that you can, oh no, and I booked 4 sessions with him. And in those 4 sessions, I sorted so much out. I got a declutterer in. I reorganized my office. I got my music studio set up, which I've been trying to do for years. I went through boxes in my house that I've been carrying from house to house that I hadn't gone into because they had memories in. And it was just, yeah, it sorted my life out, really did, just having those 4 sessions. And then he told me that I could get them for free because I'm self-employed. And as well, you can if you're working for someone, if your company pays for some of it. So I filled in all the things on the Access to Work form. And 6 months later, I got a call and I started having session and I was allowed to use him. I started having more with him. And yeah, it's just really helpful. And then I thought the only thing that was missing was because I thought this would be great if it had hypnotherapy, if it had hypnosis at the end of it, just to like process everything that was discussed. And I just thought we do this anyway, and also I would sign up for hypnotherapy with a colleague, or I'd pay for a block of 8 sessions, and it would always be so helpful. And then we were doing, they sometimes couldn't afford for a block of 8 sessions, so we'd be doing swaps with other people, with other hypnotherapists, and it's just been my go-to. It's been where I've been able to calm my mind and process things. So yeah, and now all my clients seem to have ADHD. Just seems to have gone like that. So the guy that I was the coach guy, 'cause I wasn't interested in getting diagnosed really. I thought I could find out myself. I wasn't interested in medication. But then he said it might be good for you to get diagnosed because you can understand. Because I still didn't know whether I really had it or not. So I decided I would get diagnosed because then I would be able to help my clients walk them through the process of doing it through the NHS, the free ways. You don't have to pay thousands of pounds to get a label put on you. So I did. I went to the GP and I got it. And then a couple of years later, I had my diagnosis. And even to right to the end of the interview with the psychologist online, I was still thinking, oh, I hope I'm not wasting everybody's time. I really do. I don't think, what if I haven't got it? What if I'm just like batty? And then he said at the very end, I was feeling really anxious at what he was going to say, like a junior driving test. And he said, well, you've blatantly got ADHD. And I was just like a huge sigh of relief because
Yeah,
it was,
real relief for you.
wow, yeah, wow, all this time and all those, and straight away my brain was thinking back to all those
Mm.
times that, and I just felt the real deep compassion for myself. So yeah, it was the coach really that helped me, speaking to somebody, a professional who kind of understood it. So because, and he has ADHD as well, the coach. So yeah, since then, that was a couple of years ago. So and then perimenopause kicking
Right.
in. So, of course, then finding out that it's like a million times worse when we go through
Right.
those hormonal stages, and then remembering back to chat to teenage years. We're going through the puberty, that again, the hormone changes, the ADHD was no wonder I struggled so much.
Mm.
So within after getting diagnosed, and then a year over that following year, I decided I'm going to give the medication a go. So, and then I had to wait another year for the medication to come through, and I've been taking it now for a few months, and it's been a game changer, to be honest.
Right. So
There's
it's
no
worked
way
for
did I
you.
want it
Mm.
before.
Mm.
And because I was managing, I was
Yeah.
managing with the therapy and the my writing every day and all the things I use, but I just, yeah, it's been helpful because it just got so bad. I was boiling the kettle dry on the hob
Right.
like 6 times in a day, put a
Mm.
chicken in the oven, went and bulk
Mm.
cooked something, and then decided to eat one of the portions from the bulk cook and forgot I had a chicken in the oven until the following day. And my son saying there's a funny smell in the kitchen. I was like, oh, so I went to the GP and I said, look, I'm really struggling. I'm waiting for my because massive waiting times for everything to do with it at the moment. And eventually the medication came through. So I think I'm just going to use it because I didn't want to take HRT. So I'm just going to use it until I'm through the difficult bit, the
Yeah.
menopause, I guess.
Yeah.
And then I know I can manage without it, when my
Yeah.
hormones
Yeah.
are all over the
So it,
place.
it sounds like the challenges faced by ADHD, they don't stay constant. They evolve over time. They have their own specific issues at different stages of life, would you say?
Yeah, definitely with and from what I've learned and more from my clients as well, and the more people I'm talking to about it, the and just for myself, my personal, the it's just crazy. And perimenopause is crazy anyway, isn't it? We're all over the place and everything's, but it's just really, and because I've my self-care and my all the support network and everything is really good because I
Mm.
have to be to walk my talk with my clients, and I work full time as well with clients and supervise these and run gong baths 3 times a month. So there's a lot of business and therapy, and I'm really busy, and single mum as well. Yeah, it just got
Yeah.
crazy. So I think the perimenopause, maybe if I'd had a HRT it wouldn't have been so bad, but I just feel like absolutely no, I don't want to
Yeah.
take that. So instinctively I think it was just like, ah, no way.
Yeah.
So the ADHD medication has been, yeah, a blessing, and I to just to be able to, and there's just been so much happening as well, changes lately, that when going through changes in life anyway, but with the hormonal changes as well
Mm.
as the
Mm.
life changes, quite big life changes. Yeah, just the day-to-day tasks,
Mm.
remembering things, and remembering things from like a minute ago. Even and losing things like my glasses and my phone and my keys. Sometimes I'll be looking for my glasses and they're on my head. But just more recently, just before I got the medication, it just went crazy.
Right.
So
Yeah.
it's
Yeah.
feeling I'm a feeling
So that was a positive decision for you that it was done.
definitely
Yeah.
just
Yeah.
able to manage, but with a sense of humor. And people are like, I don't know how you cope, because they know that some of
Yeah.
the
Yeah.
stuff I've been through recently, and it's like, yeah, because we're lucky, aren't we, with our
Mm.
profession, that we have these coping skills and
Indeed.
these tools. But yeah, even though, sometimes we have all these tools and we have a really good support network and we've got all the professional support and the personal support, it can still be a challenge. And sometimes
Yeah.
I was always dead against the medication, but I'm really glad that, apart from, years ago when I used to self-medicate, so I didn't even know what was
Yeah.
going on. And I wasn't even aware that ADHD was never a thing. We just masked it, didn't we? As
I'm interested by because you say, like that professional support network now and listening to audiobooks and reading articles. I mean, do you
Hmm.
think that awareness of ADHD is truly increasing, or do you find you're often dealing with the same misconceptions? I'm interested that, those with ADHD are increasingly identifying with the neurodiverse community. Is that a positive step for you?
Yes, definitely. Definitely. There's just so much more being understood about, especially for women with ADHD and girls, because
We are
girls,
better at masking.
we mask it and we don't even know we're doing that.
Mm,
We go through our whole life doing that. And when in school, in those teenage years, and it's like the clients that I see, and I just completely relate to it because they're masking so much in school, trying to hold
mm,
it together, and then going home and they're just like letting it all out. And there's issues at home because they're holding it in so much
mm,
together. And I'm just seeing it over and over again. And it's
mm,
because girls are so good at that. It just gets, and even when they are going through the diagnosis because they have to get the information from the schools, and because they're so holding it together at school, the schools are like, no, there's no way, and they're filling the forms in, they're saying that there isn't an issue, but when they
mm,
get home and the mask comes off, so
yeah.
it's
So although there
and
is a raised awareness, it's in certain areas
yeah,
more
it shows the
universal.
resilience
Yeah.
of the girls specifically, I think, and some boys are not hyperactive with it either, are they? Like
Mm,
physically, because
mm,
if it just used to be boys, didn't it? That were
mm.
hyperactive. You could tell by what looking at them, but a lot of the time it's just in the mind, isn't it? So
Yes,
it's not
yeah.
so recognizable
And
to
there's
others.
also the hyper focus thing that it's not always not being able to focus. It's sometimes overly focusing on things, so losing kind of the bigger picture of what's
Oh
happening around.
my goodness, yes. Because when I was running a youth support, a ketamine recovery solution focused program for a charity for youth in the area, and I was so engrossed in it. I was so excited about all the stuff that I was putting together, and then which is like completely forgot to pick my son up from school, and so that was a few years ago now. But it was just that hyper focus. So then
Yeah,
and it gradually started getting worse over the years. That was like, but I didn't know then. I thought it was just
yeah,
because I was excited about the thing. I didn't know I had ADHD
yeah,
then.
yeah.
But I knew there was something. I just
Mm,
thought it was just me. And what's been interesting since the diagnosis and again since the medication is things that I thought was just me. And also the trauma, some childhood trauma. It's interesting when you come through a recovery. That's quite fascinates me, and I'd like to understand more about that because on my sound healing practitioner training, there was a child psychologist, and he worked a psychiatrist, and he worked in a children's home, and he was talking about the kids in the children's home who they all had ADHD, but when it came down to it, when they actually really looked into it, they didn't all have ADHD, but they all had screens, and they were all addicted to their screens, and that they separated it. I know they all they all had trauma, but it was interesting because there's so many being diagnosed now, and it's like the addiction to the phone or the addiction to anything rewires the brain, doesn't it? So that's an area that I'd like to, and that I'm fascinated as
yeah,
to are our minds changing
yeah,
because there is a crossover already. We know there's a crossover between trauma, but then when we can recover from trauma, but we don't recover from being neurodiverse. So it's
yes,
interesting, isn't it? That
yes,
just so
yeah, yeah,
much. There's so much that we don't that we're still learning and still understanding. But whatever it is, when our brain is working in a different way, then there are ways that we can help manage it, aren't there?
yes, yeah,
And I think just
yeah.
having that, we know that as hypnotherapists that when we're imagining doing whatever it is we want to do, then the same parts of our
Mm.
brain are lit up as if we were actually doing those things. So it's a powerful tool, isn't it? Our
It
imagination
is, yeah. And you sort of
is a
mentioned
powerful
that
tool.
you use it as a tool to help you, and
Mm.
that most of your clients have ADHD. Mentioning that visualization. How can solution focused hypnotherapy help?
From my personal experience and from my professional experience, it's the rewiring of the neural pathways with our thoughts, and also just emptying our stress levels, reducing the stress levels with boosting our dream sleep. so that we can process things more effectively. So when we have got challenges going on, we're able to manage them more effectively if we're giving our a dream sleep, using the dream sleep to heal and to process, but more intensely and more quickly. So that's what it supports, doesn't it? It just enables us to process things more quickly and while we're asleep. So we're not having to make extra time for it. We know we might go for an appointment once a week or whatever, but
Yeah,
the
it's
most
true.
is done
Yeah.
when we're asleep or when we're
Yeah.
on the couch. So
Mm.
and also the imagining how things will be when they're better and when we're more able to manage the ADHD, how will it make a difference to
Yeah.
us? Who will notice?
Mm.
I think also the boundaries, that's been a huge thing throughout my life, and whether that's been through ADHD or trauma response, but
Mm.
those lack of boundaries without realizing what even
Yeah.
boundaries were, what are boundaries and how do you identify and express your boundaries if you don't even, you've never had them
Yeah.
because they were taken away from you. So,
Mm.
or if you just that's interesting as well. Is like, did it come from trauma or abuse, or is it an ADHD thing that
Yeah.
with the impulsivity? That's so. I think just having stronger boundaries can help us with even neurotypical people not having those strong boundaries. Then we're not able to say no to the addictions or the people pleasing or
Yeah.
but with the ADHD as well, that impulsivity is an issue, isn't it? So it's like even more so. So
Yeah.
being able to strengthen boundaries by scaling our boundaries. How would you say your boundaries are today? Naught being worst, 10 being best, and
Yeah.
then how would it be if they're a little bit different? What
Mm.
would your family notice?
Yeah.
What would your colleagues notice? And then and what's the next small step in towards boosting those boundaries and being able
Yeah.
to feel confident enough to say no to those things that are causing overwhelm or prioritizing. Yeah, it helps in so many ways.
Yeah, I think there's also that thing of reframing things that we might be feeling negative about ourselves. I can't do this, of actually how I'm coping with these things, the strategies you're already using to
Mm.
manage in life, actually reframing these as our superpowers
Absolutely. And
rather than
what would
always
be the
feeling that if
opposite?
only I could,
Yeah,
that's powerful too.
if only I could. Well, what
Mm.
if you could? What would be
Yeah,
different?
yes, yeah.
And
What
like
are you doing already? How is that
imagine.
helping? Yeah.
Yeah, you've already got those skills. See, and
Mm.
that's the thing, isn't it, as well, like recognizing in every
Yeah,
session what have been your skills and strengths
yeah,
this week, and then not realizing sometimes that we're using those skills really intensely
mm,
in certain situations that if we just able to transfer them, then
yeah,
so it's releasing those limiting beliefs, isn't it? Creating
yes,
new
very much
ones,
so.
which is
Mm.
all part of the rewiring.
Yes.
But it's been an incredible journey, and I'm just so grateful for stumbling across solution focused hypnotherapy because absolutely changed my life. I know it's so
Yeah.
many ways.
Mm.
And I always knew, like subconsciously, I had a dream like 4 years before I even stumbled across solution focused
Right.
hypnotherapy.
Mm.
But, a dream, a really intense dream that I had to remember in absolute detail because of the scenario that was going on in my dream and when I was trying to wake up from the dream. So I
Yeah.
remembered this diagram in absolute detail. And it was the
Wow.
diagram that David Newton drew when he was explaining how the brain worked
Right.
4 years later.
Mm. Mm.
So it was destined, it's just,
Yes. Yeah.
oh,
Right.
there's that picture. And I've been searching the internet trying to, and I knew what it was happening. And
Yeah.
telling me that there was a secret link between the two parts of the
Yeah.
brain. I,
Mm.
I, and but I so I
Mm.
absolutely knew, the pattern matching with ADHD. I absolutely knew this is
Yeah.
my destiny. And I've been doing it for 15 years now, and
Mm.
every 1,000 client hours, I give myself a holiday.
Right.
So I've got 230 something hours to go before I've got to 14,000 client hours. And then I'm going to Sri Lanka to stroke elephants. Yeah, even, now every session I am more passionate about this work.
Yeah.
With every person I meet, I never get sick of it. I love it.
Yeah. I can feel your energy there. So,
Mm.
if anyone's listening and this is resonating with them, whether they're not diagnosed yet, but some of the things that you're saying, they're sort of, interested in, or perhaps they have got a diagnosis and wondering, what tools they can use, how hypnotherapy can help. What do you suggest they do? What are your top self-help tips?
Mine personally is writing, journaling.
Mm.
So this was before I realized I had ADHD, but it was a way of getting everything out of my mind. So it came from a book called The Artist Way. I've mentioned this before in a
Yeah, Julia
previous.
Cameron.
Yeah, and the thing that I got from it was just waking up every morning and writing three A4 pages
Mm.
of just whatever's in your mind, and then it frees the day up for creative living. So, and according to the book, you do it for 12 weeks,
Mm.
and it gets you through a recovery process and can change your life. I actually left my husband in those 12 weeks years ago when I first did it. So we'd only been together a year, but it was the best thing I ever did. That was part of my impulsivity. I had terrible relationships, and I do that still. That's just so helpful. And anything creative, whatever your creative outlet is. And I also make electronic music. That's my therapy when I get home from work. Being out in nature, grounding, even when you really don't feel like it and you want to hide away in your cave, but just actually
Yeah,
forcing yourself to get out in the woods
excellent.
or in the fields, or just, or even if you can't do that, imagining that you are
Mm.
in those places. But yeah, getting anything that puts you in that meditative state. So hypnotherapy is great because you get, especially with the solution focus, because you're getting that side of things as well. So it works really quickly compared to other forms.
Yeah.
Music,
Mm.
dancing. I know dancing for years. I was a raver and I went dancing, and that was my.
Mm.
But when I was dancing in the woods, or to all night to that music, I was in a trance. So I
Mm.
always used trance to help me, but being able to move at the same time and dance. So and I don't go raving anymore, but I do make the music
Yeah.
for people to dance to, and I also do gong baths as well. So when I went for a gong bath, I realized, wow, this is the same state that we
Mm.
go into with hypnosis.
Yeah.
So I decided to train in that as well because I'm just playing my drum in my own little world. But yeah, so sound really helps. Interestingly, that's another the safe sound protocol that I looked
Oh,
into
mm.
that my ADHD coach was talking about, and I realized in the conversation that the music they use for that they tweak it to become songs that are popular, so you've heard the song, but they take out certain frequencies, so it's at the frequency of the human voice, and it costs a fortune, but actually it's just what we're doing. We're just using
Right.
our voice. So
Yes. Yeah.
so
Yeah.
we're already doing that. So it's a really
Yes.
interesting conversation. We're having that conversation, and it's like, and then he said, "Oh, but you're already doing that, aren't you?" And it's like, yes. So that was interesting because we always think, "Oh, shiny things. Oh, there's something
Yes.
else,
Yeah.
something else."
Yeah.
And I've done that so many times, but I always come back to the hypnotherapy
Yeah.
because, yeah, that's the core. So
Yeah.
all the things that I do that
Mm.
my core is the solution focused hypnotherapy,
Yes. Yeah.
the EMDR, and I do the sound healing and stuff as well. But
Yeah.
and whatever I do is always cushioned with the solution focused approach
Mm.
because, yeah, it
Yeah.
just helps us to be able to manage in
Mm.
between.
Yeah. Yeah.
um, as long as we're in that positive frame of mind, we
Yeah.
can cope
Sure.
with things. And some therapies, it can floor us in between
Mm.
sessions because we're dealing with this stuff. But if you've got family and work and things to do in between, so whatever I've done to help to support me has always been, and what I do with my clients as well, is always cushioned with a solution focused
Yeah. Yeah.
approach.
So
So
yeah, I mean, I
yeah.
know that you do get involved in loads of interesting projects. What is happening for you at the moment? Have you got anything interesting coming up? Anything you're involved with?
Yeah, well, I've just moved house, but in the middle of my moving house, and I had a flood a while back, and I was been moved around about 6 or 7 different properties in the past 6 months, and now I'm settled. But in the middle of all this, I was offered a gig in a club, a female friend who was organising this event, and asked me if I would play my live music there. So I said yes. And last year she asked me, and I said I wasn't ready for it then, and I said no. But I did go to the event, and it was a really lovely event because we had to go for a meal beforehand, and I was put next to this DJ from Canada who's totally teetotal and
Yeah.
an inspiration.
Mm.
And I don't drink or do anything
Yeah.
anymore, whereas I used to years ago.
Mm.
And I was put next to him because I thought
Wow.
she knew that we were both
Mm.
teetotal.
Mm.
So, and so I met all these amazing people and from Germany and everywhere. And I went to Germany and I did a gig in Germany. And then, yeah, so she'd offered me this gig, the same gig this
Yeah.
year. And it was literally a couple of weeks ago, right in the middle of my house move.
Mm.
But I knuckled down and I did it. And it was just, yeah. And then on the night, yeah, everything had disappeared from my drum machine that I programmed and prepared.
Yeah.
So I had to
Mm.
kind of do it off the cuff. And it was the
Mm.
second to last set at night time. So it was,
Right.
and it was supposed to be in the daytime, but they moved me. So it's like under pressure.
Yeah, yeah,
So
yeah.
I did that. And even though I had to kind of do it off the cuff, I just thought I'd let everyone down and I was really ashamed and it was awful. And I went and put all my equipment away and I sat in the car and I was just like, because it was breaking the pattern of a lifetime. And actually everyone enjoyed it. And I didn't let anybody down, but it was a
Well, it
faulty
just goes to show what
I
you can
had.
do actually when you get those voices of doubt, when you put them
Yeah,
aside and focus on what the real goal is, what I want to do now.
exactly.
You know,
And
all the
that
life
was a
stuff in the way,
huge,
the equipment stuff, you still managed to just
yeah, I did
focus on
it.
what was
And
important. Yeah.
it was a huge thing. It was a huge block throughout my whole life that
Mm.
I couldn't do it, or if I did it, I would let everyone down and it would
Yeah,
be
yeah.
wrong.
Mm.
And to have actually done that for that hour that night a couple of weeks ago was just incredible. And I
Yeah.
really appreciate, and just everyone was really lovely. And I don't really know these people that well, but now they're
Mm.
my people and I love them to bits because they
Yeah.
gave me an opportunity that
Yeah.
in a world that I've come from, and to be able to do that and put people into a trance while they're dancing with my
Yes.
own music that I've made
Mm.
myself there and then, because I couldn't
Yeah.
even do what I'd prepared. So it just had
Yeah.
to be like, yeah, believe in myself and do it.
Yeah.
And I didn't have my headphones on. I did it the wrong way round. Took my headphones off when I was doing the live performance instead of putting them on. And it was just like, oh, I didn't know what they could hear. So that just so inspired me. So now I've got my music studio set up here. I've just had lots of support from that world as well.
Yeah. Yeah.
Somebody's made me a light, a 3D printed light. This
Ah.
3D printing is just incredible. So I've just had loads of support. So that's I'm excited about that. I'm also
Yeah.
doing the baths, which is less exciting, but it's part of my business and part of my the
Yes.
sound healing. So yeah, so the at the moment just settling into my new home and carrying on with I've been doing more online work in the
Mm.
temporary place I was for 6 months because the internet was really good, and I started building my online practice. I did a manifesting workshop. Actually, that was locally, that was in person, just because I needed to manifest
Right.
forever
Yeah. Mm. Mm.
because I was sick of moving house. It's like, right, if I'm manifesting, I might as well get.
Yeah.
I use ChatGPT actually. I
Mm.
use ChatGPT to ask about to write me a business plan just out
Right.
of curiosity
Mm.
and came up with, and it said, well, if you're manifesting, you should be doing a manifesting workshop and invite others to do it and
Yes.
pay them to
Yeah.
come. So I did, and I just got these amazing women that came, and it ended up being really healing. And it was a
Yeah.
6-week workshop. So that was really lovely. Just doing more group work, I
Mm.
think. That was really, and then I've got well, it's not a forever home, but it's forever as long as I need it to be.
Yes. Yeah.
The idea was and then I was going to go back to my old house where the
Mm.
flood was, but the internet's really bad there. So
Right.
because I built the online business and I was enjoying being at home more,
Mm.
not driving around everywhere, I needed to find somewhere with really good internet. So I've come here thinking it's really good internet because it's like minutes from my work. I work at the doctor's surgery, and it's terrible internet. It's even worse than the original one. But that's what the drilling is the open reach. But actually, I just wanted to do that because things were so hectic, and now I'm feeling a little bit more stable, and I can walk to work within a few
Mm.
minutes. Because I like that face to face as
Yeah.
well.
Mm.
And I do the supervision online
Mm.
and group supervision as well as one-to-one. But I also do an in-person group as well. So
Yeah.
I like the combination.
Yeah. Well, keeping busy and some really positive things in the pipeline for you. You know, it's been absolutely
Yeah,
brilliant talking to you, Mel, and
yeah, thank you.
some really fascinating insights about what works for people living with ADHD. So thank you very much.
Yeah, thank you for the opportunity.
Oh, absolute pleasure. So you can find information about our other podcasts on our website, www.afsfh.com, where you'll also find articles, information and resources, plus, of course, our solution-focused hypnotherapist directory, where you'll be able to look through the profiles of our fully qualified members and choose just the right therapist for you. Next time, we'll be talking to the new chair of the AFSFH, Jane Fox. Jane's been research lead of a MyCore service evaluation, where a number of solution-focused hypnotherapists are collecting outcomes from their clients on an online platform. The results so far are impressive and support basically what we already know, that solution-focused hypnotherapy works. So I'm really looking forward to finding all the details and insider knowledge out on that one. Until then, I'm Sally Hare, and this has been Talking Solutions.